Hello, 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 hello. I always say that a lot of times. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, my name is Jennifer Matlin, and you are here at Will You Give Me a Reading? I do this a lot of Wednesdays. Wednesdays I'm here. I had a hiatus a bit. I just came back from Ireland, so I'm a little sleepy. The time zone adjustment has not made. Hey, everyone. But I have a really cool spread that I wanted to share with you. It's something I've been kicking around in my mind for some time. Um, the idea of 7 generations and how Indigenous communities, uh, no decisions are made without thinking about 7 generations. And so I really felt, what would my 7 generations say about me? And how can I be a good ancestor to them? So the format of the spread is based mostly off of a book. Let me see if I can try and screen share it. Oh, I cannot. There it is. It's called The Good Ancestor, a radical prescription for long-term thinking. And this is by Roman, I don't know how to pronounce this, Roman Kursnarek. He did a TED Talk. You can find him there as well. And I loved it because it's like, how do we really think in long term in ways that we don't always do, and especially in this very frantic, quick society where everything is disposable and we only think of the moment. Roman goes into talking about how we look at time and what time, and how those cultural perceptions of time can shape and influence the decisions that we make for ourselves and for all of our descendants to come after us. And one of the things he talked about that I thought was really interesting was that before the clock was invented, that in Europe you had more of that indigenous idea of time, which is cyclical. But what happened was, when you start to see time as a line, then you can shorten it. And with every more defined measurement of time, you see greater control of people using that time, which I thought was really interesting. It wasn't a coincidence that around the first town clocks were invented in Europe. That's when you saw the first law on the books determining and limiting the lunch hour the workers had. So as time has gotten faster and the bits of time that we measure are smaller in unit, it's also shortened the way we interact with time, and to the point where there's just always these notifications in front of us, and we're not really thinking about long-term concepts. So, excuse me, the Good Ancestor, he gives a prescription for long-term thinking. And we're going to need long-term thinking if we're going to make it through this ecological crisis and the wall that seems like we're headed for. So he gives 6 different concepts to this idea of how to be a good ancestor. Number 1 is legacy mindset. Legacy mindset is thinking about the kind of legacy that you're leaving for the generations that come after you. Like what do you want to be known for? What is the story that they're going to say about you? Then you have intergenerational justice. How are you personally part of making a more just world for your future? It's really interesting because in the climate change movement, you see a lot of the younger people saying, you're stealing my future. And it's true. We're colonizing a future. We are making their future less viable, less healthy because of the choices we make today. So that's part of that intergenerational justice idea. How do we make the future just for our descendants? We also have cathedral thinking. So again, kind of taking that idea from Europe that they would start to build a cathedral, and then the cathedral would take hundreds of years before it was done. And they knew how long it was going to take. So what does cathedral look like for us? what do we want to do to help build something that has some kind of sustainability, something that we're going to create that we know that we'll never see the finish of, that will better the world in some way. You have also holistic forecasting. So, holistic forecasting is really about looking at the big picture. So, not just about leaving a will, but what kind of world do they have? Do they have a healthy world, a safe world? And forecasting ahead of time in that. You also have a transcendent goal. And a transcendent goal is for us in our lives. Like, what is the thing that we're working on that transcends who we are as individuals? What goal is greater and bigger than us that we feel that we can align to? And how does that help our future generations? Should we choose to pursue those things? In the same way that the man who invented polio, his name, he gave it away. He didn't charge for it. That's a transcendent goal. And Viktor Frankl's Man's Search of Meaning, that's one of the things that he talks about is how do we get through the darkest times personally and as a society is we need something greater than ourselves to believe in, a cause to believe in. And finally, deep time humility, which is that reorganization from being so much in the moment to really time and how much of it there is, and how we're so small in all of that, and really getting the sense of the awe and the wonder that comes with that. So with that all being said, I took all of these kind of ideas and I distilled it into a spread where you're going to ask your descendants how well you did on these factors. So let me show you the kind of spread. Let me get into it here. Oops, that's not right. Where are you? Oh, I see. It changed the... Give me 1 second and I will find it. There it is. Aha! How to be a good ancestor for 7 generations. So if you're alive and you're here, grab your cards and start pulling cards out, and we'll go through them one by one. So the first card I want you to pull, is 0. This is you as an ancestor. So you can pull it. You don't even need to look at it yet. Just put it in a pile and we'll get to it. And this is kind of acts as like a significator card. So just like you, what kind of ancestor are you? What is the baseline? What's the 0? Then you're going to pull the next card. First, descendants. And this card this is the story your children will tell about you. Now, that story may be a good one. It could be trauma. It could be, oh my gosh, I wrote all kinds of things down. So it could be a gift. It could be identity. It could be belief. This is your legacy. This is the story your children will tell about you. Now, if you don't have physical, actual children, then we could see this in a more global way. So the story that maybe your community would tell about you, or your people, or your block, whatever it is. This is the story that those who are immediately the next generation in some way, shape, or form that are connected to you, nieces and nephews, stepchildren, whatever it is, this is the story that they're going to tell about you. So you want to pull one card. Once you have that, okay. The third card, this is kind of confusing because the third card, because you start at 0, but this is the second. So this is your grandchildren may experience great ecological stress. This is how you invested in their safety and the stories that they tell about you. So this goes into the concept of holistic forecasting. Knowing what's happening with climate change, possibly. How are you ensuring that your grandchildren will survive? What are the stories that they're going to tell about you? How did you invest in that? Maybe you're going to buy land. Maybe you'll teach your children how to hunt or how to weave. Maybe you'll teach your children about self-sufficiency and community engagement. However it needs to be. Those investments just aren't just financial. In fact, that's actually the least important thing. These investments are about instilling the capacity for adaptation and living outside of this like capitalist, like Amazon life, Amazon culture. So the second card is them talking about that. This card represents how you invested or didn't invest in their safety, in the stories that they tell about you. And once you've pulled that, there's one more. Then the next one is, and just put those in a pile. We'll deal with them later. So the fourth card, but it's like third because you started at 0, because I make things complicated, is your grandchildren may tell this story of how you participated in fighting for the world they live in now. And this goes into that idea of intergenerational justice. What are you doing now that can show how you participated in fighting for the world that they live in now? Maybe you work to have gun legislation, or work for peace, or work for diversity, whatever it is. Your story can directly impact the world that your great-grandchildren will live in. And we all want a just world for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren even. So I pulled one, and we're going to keep going. So the fifth card. Your fourth generation benefits in these ways, or not benefit. So maybe you failed at this. And that's why this reading is so great, because then you get to see, oh man, maybe I have some work in this area that I could do. So your fourth generation benefits or not in these ways as a result of your planning, even though they may not remember you. So this goes into that idea of cathedral thinking. That whatever you've done is still in play. It still is part of their reality, but maybe they have no memory of you. Now, someone who lives in North America, my fourth generation behind me, we're colonials, really, for better or for worse. But people come to America or Canada or any of these kind of countries because they're thinking about not just the children they're going to have, but the children that come after that. And knowing that my life now is good because of a choice my ancestor made. And you will also make choices that could really benefit the descendants that may not even remember your name. I think there's something really beautiful in that. So pull one card. Next, we have your fifth generation tells the story of how societies / ecologies have been made better as a result of your actions. Now, this takes the idea of the transcendent goal, something much larger than just your immediate descendants. This has to do with the grander view and how something that you were connected to or aligned with on a large scale exists because of your actions in your life. That's that transcendent goal, something much bigger than you. And then your final card for the sixth one out, the sixth generation out, is this one. A far-off generation lives in a planet very different from the Earth you live in now. What's left within them that came from you? Now, this was written intentionally, where it could be like maybe this planet, maybe another planet. I don't know. It's somewhere way out there into the future. Their language may be different. Everything you recognize about yourself, this descendant cannot recognize, right? So I don't know. I did 23andMe, and I've got Neanderthal in me, right? So in that way, what's left within these far-off descendants of yours that came from you? And then you're going to pull one card for that one too. So you should have 7 cards. And this is what the spread should look like. The little honeycombs. So I've pulled some cards out to act as a kind of sample. So for 0, what kind of ancestor are you? I got the moon. This is very interesting. So maybe, well, I think it's funny because as an intuitive, the moon is a very big card for me, that I may be known for that, but also that there's something mysterious about me to my descendants, something they don't quite know all about. Or maybe I get forgotten very, very early in this timeline. So for the next position, number 1, we have the legacy mindset. And I got 6 of Wands. That's a great card. 6 of Wands is, 6 of Wands is the card of success. My document camera isn't working, so I'm having to do it this way. So that's lovely. That really does indicate that I have left some kind of story of making it, of being resilient, of trying harder, of pushing through until you've met a goal. So my descendants will tell a story probably around an identity of success. Great. So then the next one we have is your great-grandchildren may experience great ecological loss and stress. And this is how I invested in their safety, in the stories that they tell or not, or stories where I didn't invest. And this is that holistic forecasting. And I got the Empress. Boy, don't I love that. That's telling me that my grandchildren will be provisioned for, that they may see me as a matriarch figure. You can see that she is sitting in her garden. Maybe there's some land that has been held in trust for them. Maybe there is something that feels really safe and fruitful and calm. So I find that really reassuring to see that my grandchildren are going to be okay. And they're going to be okay in these ways because of the stories that they've told about me and the actions I did. So then the next card we have is your great-grandchildren. Your great-grandchildren is around that idea of intergenerational justice. So your great-grandchildren will or will not, depending on you, tell the story of how you participated in fighting for the world that they live in now. Ooh, and I got 10 of Wands. For me, I would see this as a very positive card for that, because 10 of Wands for me is around labor and division of labor or workers' rights or anything like that. That there's something I have enacted or done that has given them some justice in terms of the kind of work that they do in the world and how much of it they do. So I think that's pretty cool. After that, we have the 4th generation. benefits in these ways as a result of your planning, even though they do not remember you. This is that cathedral planning. So my fourth generation out, what do they get to enjoy? What has come to fruition because of something I have enacted? What are they saying about that? And here we have, here we have Three of Cups. Three of Cups is really the card of celebration. And I really, really love that. And safety. I also can feel like I'm thinking about it in terms of like access to clean water, which is a major issue that's just going to get crazier. So perhaps there's some work around access to water, access to land, making sure that whatever it is that I try to protect and it's not like you don't have to have $1 billion to do this, but this is about you joining collective action groups now to protect those things for your children and their children too. Okay. So then you have the fifth generation tells a story of how societies and ecologies have been made better as a result of your actions. And this is that transcendent goal. Oh, interesting. And I have Seven of Cups. Actually, I think this is really cool. So Seven of Cups to me is the card of fantasies, but I also see it as the card of storytelling. And I follow a lot of deep ecology people who really emphasize the power of telling new stories about where we come from and who we are, and how those new stories will anchor the new societies that we have to build in order to live more justfully and kindly on this limited planet. So this feels really good to me that in some way my stories and the narratives that I write now in some way will still have a part to play in all of this. And then finally, a far off generation lives on a planet very different than the Earth I know now or we know now. So what's left? What's left within them that came from me? Ooh, and I got the King of Coins. So I really see this as yet another card of stabilization, of safety, of abundance, of growth. I love that I've seen the King of Coins and the Empress, and that my far off ancestors or descendants, sorry, who look nothing like me, in any way, have a part of me within them that's kind and good and regenerative. And so many of us are very scared, right? About, oh my gosh, with climate change and ecological loss, like, what is it going to be like for my children and grandchildren? Like, is it going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? And I like readings like this because it really shows us that even if we're really just these one tiny people, that we can actually enact very great change if we apply like our lives mindfully and thinking beyond our own lives. And if enough of us did that, what a beautiful world we would have. So there you have it. That is the spread. I'll go through these once more so you have them. How to be a good ancestor for 7 generations. This is you as an ancestor. First descendants, this is the story your children will tell about you. Second, your grandchildren may experience great ecological stress. This is how you invested in their safety in the stories they tell about you. So most of this is about talking about the stories they tell. So it's really from their subjective experience. And it felt more indigenous. So maybe that's interesting that the Seven of Cups came up for me. And I'm really using narrative to drive the information that we're getting from the reading. Your great-grandchildren may tell the story of how you participated in fighting for the world they live in now, intergenerational justice. Your fourth generation benefits in these ways as a result of your planning, even though they may never remember you. or not remember you. And this is that cathedral planning. Your fifth generation tells the story of how societies/ecologies have been made better as a result of your actions. This is the transcendent goal. And then finally, a far off generation lives in a planet very different from the earth you live in now. What's left within them that came from you? That's that deep time humility. And the cool thing is that you can do this reading for your descendants, but you can also do this from the point of your ancestors, that you can decide to shift the 0 to any point of these 7 positions and then spin the reading out that way, which I think is really cool. So I think you can do it from like your ancestors as well as your descendants, and see how it fits and how it applies. So I know that this YouTube video, I'm very calm. I'm still dealing with the time zone shifts. The time, what is it? What's the word? See, my brain is like, I don't remember that word. What is it? Jet lag. That's it. But I hope you find this interesting. And I'm now going to, on the live, I'm going to go over to Instagram and I'm going to have fun playing with this spread with them over there. So if you are here live, please don't hesitate to come and join us. Once again, I am Jenna Matlin, and this is Would You Give Me a Reading? And I'm so glad you came today. And next week, I'm going to be talking about my 2 weeks in Ireland and all the magical and wonderful things we did, including some beautiful well magic and well spread work. So do tune in for that, and hopefully I will see you then. All right, then, have a wonderful rest of your week.